G'day mates, and thanks for taking us flying. This program's shortcuts came about from a request from a user at a seminar. He asked whether he could cut clips quickly on the fly while digitizing instead of needing to go into the cutting room and spending so much time there. Well, this got me thinking about the whole digitizing process. Now don't get me wrong, the Flyer's record panel is often the perfect tool to use, especially when you're tight for hard drive space or wish to cut your clips very carefully. There are other ways to digitize too, all of them perfect for certain types of projects. When digitizing with shortcuts, you'll be able to change recording modes and drives in between clips, capture Flyer stills as well as audio and video clips, take advantage of the smart file naming system, record directly to folders and easily switch between them, set a timed recording and take a break, use some fast tools to avoid time spent in the cutting room, and compare all of your hard drives at one time. Shortcuts and the Pro upgrade will offer you a number of new ways to work. Remember, there's no need to use them all. As we go through this video, look for ways that excite you or will work best with your type of projects. So let's take a look at shortcuts. The first step before starting shortcuts or any third-party program would be to save your current work. If I had a project up here right now, I would save it. Shortcuts defaults to opening ready to record in your current files folder. So we could navigate over to our files view. Actually, I'll use the Copilot hotkey left Amiga 1 and navigate into the drive and folder that I wish to record on. I'll go into Flyer A2 and I think I'll create a new folder here. Write Amiga X to wipe that. And I have a folder named Demo. I'll open that up. Now I can start shortcuts. I'll start it with left Amiga tilde. Tilde normally opens the Flyer's record panel. With the left Amiga tilde, you open shortcuts. Shortcuts takes a few seconds to load. Some of that time is spent scanning in all your hard drives and reading the folder structure for the drive you're recording to. At the top, we have all the settings controls, and below that, the record panel. Shortcuts has taken over the Flyer screen. This saves a lot of chip memory and also prevents any changes to the Flyer's folder structure while you're digitizing. When you want to go back to the Flyer, you'll need to exit shortcuts. Let's look at a few of the features. First off, unlike the Flyer's record panel, there's no need to exit just to change settings. You could record a number of video clips in HQ5 quality and then change to standard quality and continue recording a few more clips. You can also record a few clips on one drive and then select another drive and continue working. If you'd like to compare all of your hard drives and find the larger space, use the hard drive chart. The second big difference to the Flyer's record panel is that as well as recording audio and video clips, you can also capture Flyer stills. With a joystick or foot switch, you could even do this from across the room. With file names, I added a smart naming system so that I would never have to wonder whether I've used a file name before or if I'm entering an illegal character. I also wanted a way to work with folders. Here we see all of the folders on the Flyer A2 drive. I can easily switch between them at any point. And there are other folder controls that we'll look at later. I get to see a listing of all of the clips I've recorded and a way of reviewing and testing each of them afterwards. And here we have the main recording controls. Let's start to digitize. First, let's check my settings. I want to record video clips. It says that I'm recording to the drive and folder I expect, but that it's in standard quality. I'm going to change that back to HQ5. Now, I'm going to start my video deck so I can set audio levels. The audio levels can be controlled over here. This ranges from 0 up to 16. I'm going to set it in the middle at 8. And then I'm going to change my file name to the word beach. When I'm ready to record, I click down here, Start Video Recording. I'll roll. When I'm ready to stop, I can click on the Stop button. Now we're ready to save. Often I like to test my clip before I go on. I can do this one of two ways. If I click this little checkbox here, I'll see the center frame of the clip I've just recorded. If I'd like to see the playback of an entire clip, I can click on the Test button. Now that I've seen it, I can either delete the clip or save it. Let's record another clip. We start it. Then when we're ready, we can stop the clip. We see the center point, and if we like, we can save it. Ready for the next one. I'm going to start recording. Stop. And save. Let's start another video recording. This time we're going to use the return key. Any of these three keys on your keyboard would start the video recording. Return to start. Return to stop. And return to save. Let's start another video recording. You have the pause button here. You can click on this to pause a recording and unpause it again. You can also use the space bar to pause. Let's stop. If you don't wish to keep this recording, you have the option to delete it. And off it's gone. Ready to start again. Let's start one more video recording. And I'll stop it. And this is a perfect time to change the name if you need. Write Amiga X and give it a new name. Ready to save? Return. Again. You can also change the name while the clip is recording.
Thank you.
Sometimes when I start a recording, I realize that I've begun with a false take. So here is a quick way to clear a false take and begin again. You click on the clear button, it'll stop the recording, erase it, and begin rolling again in about 1.5 to 2 seconds. So you can quickly kill false takes right on the fly. You can also use the delete key for this. If I was working with a tape that had a lot of active false starts, I'd probably keep my finger on the delete key as needed. After you've recorded the correct take, just press the stop or return key and save. If I know my footage well, we can use another key called the chop button. We've started recording, and as soon as we realize that this clip has finished, we can click on chop. It'll stop that recording and move on to the next one as quickly as possible.
Just maybe grab this.
Again, at the end of a shot, start a new clip.
Automatic iris.
If I see a false start, press on clear, next clip is done, click on Chop or Stop if you wish to finish. So, you can trim the top soft clips easily with the Clear button or Delete key, and chop a tape into multiple clips quickly with the Chop button or Backspace key. I'm going to stop the recording. If you're using this checkbox next to the Test button, then you're seeing the center frame of the video clip. That will also be the frame that's used to create the icon. If you prefer to select your own icon, then you can click on the icon button and find the exact frame that you want. Click Continue, and that's the frame that will be used for the icon. Before we mentioned that we had a smart naming system. Let's have a look at that for a moment. Write Amiga X, and I'm going to enter a name which has illegal characters, such as the $, or the apostrophe, or comma. When I press Return, the illegal characters are removed. Best of all, though, is that the name system checks to see whether the name has been used before. So if I enter the word beach, it searches through and gives me the next name that I should use. So I never have to worry about whether I've used a name before. Let's delete this clip and see how the naming works when you're actually recording. I'm rolling. Change this name back to beach. And you'll see that some asterisks have appeared up here, showing that the name hasn't been tested yet. As soon as I stop the recording, the name gets tested, so no matter what name you use, shortcuts will make it work. Next, let's have a look at this button up here called Timed Recording. Sometimes I like to record a long piece of music or a long video clip, perhaps for a multi-camera project. Well, I don't want to sit around and wait for the clip to finish. Instead, I can set a timed recording. For example, let's change over to our audio drive. You'll see the recording mode will switch to audio only. And it also shows the folder structure for the drive. Well, I'm just going to record into the root directory. Up here we see it says Flyer C1. Now I'm going to check my audio levels. This point here is showing the loudest point in the recording so far. This looks good, so I think I'll go back and get ready to start. This loudest point will clear after a couple of seconds of silence, or if you turn off the audio E to E mode. We'll set up for a timed recording. And this piece of music happens to be 4 minutes 43 seconds, so I'm going to set it to record for 5 minutes. It says it's ready to begin. I'll start the recording and start the music. Now I can take a break and come back when the recording's all done. If I wish, I could abort the recording. I don't want to. When the recording's all done, I can come back and save it, delete it, or test it, or in this instance, I think I'll change its name. And save. So you can do a timed recording, go away and take a break. Next, let's do some video stills. We're going to switch our drive back to our A2. It'll show us the folder structure and show us the last folder that we recorded to on the Flyer A2 drive. I'm going to switch to video stills and go back to showing our listing. Let's change the name now. I'll just call it stills. Now I could either feed in a camera, or in this instance, I'm going to feed in a video deck and use the freeze button on my time-based corrector. Since I don't really want to hear the sound between recordings, I'm going to turn off the audio's E to E mode. When I see the still that I want, I'm going to freeze it with my time-based corrector. And then I can use this quick save button to grab it. Grab another one. And another. So the quick save button lets you work very quickly. You'll notice that just above the quick save, it shows the word spacebar. So you can also grab your stills with the spacebar. The spacebar also has an asterisk at the end. This asterisk is rather important. It indicates what the joystick fire button will trigger. So if you have a joystick hooked up to your second mouse port, or even a foot switch, then when you press that button, it will trigger the quick save. If you'd like to review your last still, you can click here, and it'll pop up. You have the choice also to delete it. If you prefer to name your stills individually, you might wish to use this grab and hold flyer still button. Here we grab it, and it shows it to you on your flyer screen, and still gives you the chance to change its name. Then you can save it. Grab the next still, and then name it. So grabbing stills is quite easy. We could then switch back to doing video clips and continue digitizing. One of the reasons shortcuts can create flyer stills so quickly is that we have it set to process the icons later, essentially creating all of the icons when we exit. With flyer stills, where you're perhaps lining up a photograph and a camera, you might prefer to change the settings to create icons now. Then every time you capture a still, the icon would be created. One other choice here is to not create icons at all. Now I might use that sometimes when footage is very locked down, like a talking head or a surgery video, and every crouton image would come out looking pretty much the same. If I turn off the icons, then when I build my project, I'll see the file names up there instead of images that all look identical. Lastly, before we exit and process this list of clips, let's have a look at the review function. When you click on the review button, you see a list of every clip and still that you've recorded. You can select an item on the list and see the center point of that clip. If you'd like to play a clip, click on the play button. To stop playback, click on abort and then yes. If you'd like to delete a clip, just click on Delete Item. It's an instant delete, so know what you're cutting out first. You can also arrange the list into alphabetical order. Let's return out to our main screen, and now let's exit Shortcuts and see what happens. It says that there are 15 items to process. These are the icons that need to be created. Would you like to process this list and exit? Or save this list for later work? Well, generally, you're going to select Process List and Exit. Now it goes through and creates the icons for all of the clips and stills. When you're exiting Shortcuts, wait for it to tell you that Shortcuts is all done. I'm going to press left Amiga tilde again and go back into Shortcuts, and we'll look at a few functions that we passed over before. We're going to be examining the hard drives, and the folders in particular. We saw before how you could switch between different hard drives. Well, at the top here we have a thing called the hard drive chart. This will allow you to compare the relative time available on all 21 of your Flyer hard drives. You can select a drive and see the different qualities and time lengths that you have available. Whichever drive has the most room will show up full on this graph. Other drives are relative to this space. You can then either use this selected drive or cancel and stay with the drive and folder that you are using. One of the goals with shortcuts, and especially the Pro upgrade, is to accomplish as many tasks as possible while you are digitizing and eliminate the time you'd normally spend afterwards. With the Pro upgrade, you'll see how you can attach video fades, mark in and out points, and build a project while you're digitizing. With shortcuts, let's look at how we can use folders to get our footage organized. Here is the folder that we're currently recording into. If we wish to switch to another folder, just click on it and start recording. You can even change folders in the middle of recording or immediately afterwards before you save. Often, I like to split a project up into a number of subfolders. Let's see how I might do that. I'm going to select the root directory, place where I want to create my first folder, and add a new folder. We'll call it Tour. Now, inside of that, I want to create a few subfolders. We can do this all at once. I'll call the first A Intro. Then I place a comma. B Middle, comma, C Ending. Let's even do another one, F Miscellaneous. If I was doing weddings, I might also have things like C for cake, D dance, E goodbyes. Now it creates that entire folder tree. And we're ready to start recording. I'm going to switch my E to E mode back on and cue my video deck. Now I'm going to stop my video recording. I realize I'd rather have this into my intro and change its name to Old West. And then I'm going to chop that recording. Starts recording again. I'll push this one into the middle directory and chop it. Now I've got a bit of a false take, so I'm going to clear that. This next shot, that's a good miscellaneous shot. I'm going to call that crowd. And chop. Anyway, you see how you can work. I'm going to stop. If I like, I could even still switch this shot into one of the other directories. I'm going to save that. So you can quickly split up a project on the fly while you're digitizing, which should help you get organized rather quickly. I've just stopped my video deck. Let's look at what else we can do with folders. Here it says we can count the files in a folder. Select the folder, click the button, and it tells us that there are 17 files in the current location. The Flyer appears to have a limit of about 180 stills or clips inside of a single folder, so this is a good way to keep your number lower than that. You can also view the files inside of a folder. Select the folder, click the button, and it'll show you a list of all the files inside that folder. Select an item and you'll see a still from the middle of that clip. You can also play a clip. And then stop it when you like. Let's look at two last things. Usually, when you enter a comment, it would be cleared when that clip is finished recording. Sometimes I like to keep the same comment up for a series of clips, and I can use the lock comment checkbox here on the end. When you want the comment to be cleared after each recording again, just turn the checkbox off. Lastly, we mentioned before that the joystick could be used with flyer stills. It can also be used with video clips and audio clips. By default, it's tied in with the return key. So when you first press the joystick button, it will start the recording. The next time you press it, it will stop it. And the third time, it will save it. If you like, you can change the joystick to work with the chop function. Let's do that. It's on the settings panel. Joystick options. And here, it says assign the joystick fire button, the GPI trigger, to either the return key, which will stop the recording, the backspace key, which will chop the clips, or to disable the fire button altogether. We'll change it to chop clips. You can also set an up or down joystick movement to clear the beginning of a recording or to toggle the pause on and off. Now you'll see that the backspace key is marked with the asterisk. The joystick will now work for chopping. After you've chopped a series of clips, then you'd eventually press the return key or the stop button. Now you can edit with your feet up. Let's pretend now that we want to go back to our flyer for a moment and then come back and continue working with shortcuts. We'll select Exit, and instead of doing the process list, we'll say Save the list for later. This takes us straight out to the flyer screen. Now we could do whatever work we wanted, and when we're ready, come back into Shortcuts. It will detect the saved list and offer us three options. We can either start to digitize and add to the current list. We could digitize and clear the current list. The clips would still be there, but we never created the icons. Or third, we can process the icons right now and get back out again. I'm going to select Digitize and Add to List. Now I'll be able to continue digitizing and add on to the current list that I was working on before. Before leaving, here's a couple of tech notes. I've noticed that occasionally a pop-up button or a slider may feel a little sluggish or quirky. This is not a fault of your machine. Just click on the button a second time. Second, we block out the Copilot hotkeys while Shortcuts is running by temporarily renaming the Copilot support drawer and then naming it back when Shortcuts closes. Since Shortcuts takes away the flyer's screen, I gave the beta testers a special hotkey that would shut down Shortcuts and restore the flyer's screen in case of any emergency. If you should ever need to panic exit out of Shortcuts, you can hold down the Control key and also press the left Amiga tilde. Well, that's about it for your overview of Shortcuts. I hope you found things that you can use and ways to make your projects fly. If and when you're ready for more, let me tell you about the Shortcuts Pro upgrade. As I looked at saving time in the digitizing process, I realized that we could do a lot of our rough edit while digitizing. For example, with Shortcuts Pro, you can mark or set in and out points on the fly while digitizing. Even set audio levels and audio fades, and attach video fade effects. Now, when you exit Shortcuts Pro, it'll build your project for you. Build projects should work really well for folks doing chronological events and help you get your project out the door before next week's event. I think it would also work well for documentaries and industrials, as it groups your various clips together into your project so you can see what your choices are. If you're working to a well-planned script, then great. The better you know your footage and where you want those shots to end up, the more you can do. So there's other features in Shortcuts Pro upgrade, but for the moment, get into Shortcuts and give it a go. And if you get any more great ideas, And if you get any more great ideas, let me know. See you later, mates.